sure I do this brother the proper diligence. This brother has over 3,000 YouTube subscribers. He is the host of the Heat Zone podcast, which is an excellent podcast. I took my own, time to go through and listen to it and also tune in. I comment. It's really good content. I want y'all to definitely check that out. But I want to welcome to the Sports Time Zone my brother and fellow Heat Nation representative, Martell Lee. Welcome to the show, brother.
Listen, man, thank you for the introduction, bro. But listen, everyone who's from my channel, make sure you guys come over here as well. Like, share, comment, subscribe, the whole shebang. Make sure you guys support their channel as well.
Definitely appreciate that. That's how we do. Each one teach one. We're all out here doing our thing. We're doing what we love, and we just here to support one another. So I definitely appreciate you for coming over and showing some love over here to the Sports Time Zone. And salute to everybody out there in the Heat Zone as well. So y'all see me real quick. I should be making an appearance on there a few times. I got to come and bless the situation. But man, let's jump right into it, man. I know we had a tough one last night. It was really tough. I'm just going to dive right into it. Our Heat suffered a loss to the Philadelphia 76ers. The score was 98-91. Now, we were fortunate because we maintained our 8th seed, so we didn't fall way down just completely out the mix. We're in the 8th, and we're also fortunate that we're only one game behind number 7, which is Indy, and we're fortunate that Indy lost as well. So they kind of gave us a blessing by helping keeping us afloat. But no Jimmy Butler, no Jovic. Bam did give us 20 points and 13 rebounds, but only 2 free throw attempts in that game. That concerned me a little bit, being a centerpiece of the team with Jimmy being out and Bam, knowing you're the centerpiece, you are our all-star player. And to only come up with 2 free throws in that game, that was a little concerning. Real quick, also, Terry Rozier did contribute with 20 points. I love that effort from Terry, but only 1 assist. 1 assist for our starting point guard. Go on, make it, Terry. You can't do them type of thing, Terry. You have to give us more than that. JJ, Jaime Jaquez, he had 9 points in 35 minutes. And I mean, I'm the first person to say that Jaime Jaquez has defied the rookie wall. But last night, it kind of looked like he might have hit it. Like it was starting to look like he's hitting that rookie wall, because you're playing 35 minutes. You're getting the burn. Spo's giving you the burn, and you only come up with 9 points in a game like that where we really don't have perimeter scoring. Duncan Robinson was almost non-existent. He gave us 3 points on 1 for 5. That was bad. Patty Mills, 22 minutes on 1 for 5 from 3. I mean, I can go on and on and on. As a team, we only shot 12 for 33 from downtown. And it looks like when we can't hit the 3, we're not going to win. So I was very, very taken back and troubled by that loss. How did you feel when you watched the loss? How did that make you feel? Is that cause for concern? Is it time to panic? How do you feel about that?
Well, the Miami Heat, they may be in trouble, especially how, Duncan Robinson, he might be out with his back injury, and, he's not even going to play in the next game. Cavs. Bam Adebayo could have done better, because think about it. He only had 10 shots. He's our best player. He should have at least had 15 to 18 shots last night. There's a lot of things that are going on with this Miami Heat team. We're struggling to score, especially like in this era where teams are dropping 130 points to 125 points every single game with ease. And this is when it really comes back to roster construction. Because think about it. Since 2020, we've had no size and we've struggled with the scoring. And we're in the same position that we were in last year. The same type of playing tournament. 7th, we can't really stay healthy. We can't score. So there's a lot of things going on. And especially looking into the future, the Miami Heat, they're going to have to really address Jimmy Butler's availability, Tyler's, and just the overall roster in terms of talent. Think about it. Patty Mills, he just came off the streets.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Same thing like DeLon Wright. And even though they were on their respective teams, they weren't really getting that much playing time. And then, mind you, these are players that, you don't want them playing more than 10 to 15 minutes a game. Now they're being asked to play way above their roles and do things that they're really not supposed to be doing on this Miami Heat roster. So in terms of the last night, it was a bad loss because right now every single game counts. And I
Mhm.
honestly think that the Miami Heat don't take the regular season seriously, because if they did, think about it. This is the time where players are supposed to be getting rest. We shouldn't really be battling, because let's say we have 15 games left. We really only have 10. I'm
Right,
not expecting Bam Adebayo to play the last 3 or 4 games. Why? I'm not
right.
expecting Jimmy Butler to play the last 3 or 4 games. So yeah, people might say we might have 15 games left, but we realistically maybe have 10 or 9 games, because we really got to get our players rest going into the playoffs.
Agreed. And to your point, some people and some fans to the naked eye will look at us and say, okay, well, no cause for panic. We were in the same position last year. Look at what we did last year. We got all the way to the that was an anomaly. And secondly, my take on that is just even the optics of it all. We don't even look like the same team that we looked like last year, even though we're in the same position. And looking back at this game, and this game was a microcosm of my point on where I'm going with this. We did out rebound Philly by like maybe 4 or 5 rebounds. But the reason why that is a misleading stat and why our size is still an issue is we don't get the clutch rebounds. We don't get the rebounds that matter, the ones where the game is in the balance. And this is, we need a rebound to preserve our opportunity to go up or our opportunity to not go down by more than one possession. We also don't get those hustle balls the way that we were getting them last year. Though we were undersized last season, what we made up for it was our hustle. We would die for loose balls. We won the loose ball battle pretty much every night. You were not going to outwork us. You were not going to out hustle us. You may out rebound us. You may outsize us, but we had the hustle game on lock. This season, I don't see that. I don't see us winning those hustle balls. I don't see us getting on the ground, diving for those loose balls and preserving extra possessions and the back taps that we were getting before, or just, you know, the small things, the little things that branded us for having the culture that we have. I don't see that this season. It almost looks like at this stage of the season, we don't have a true identity. And that bothers me and that scares me a bit. Again, I don't want to overreact, but I'm going to overreact because this is not a good sign going into the postseason. As you said, this is the time of year where teams are either playing they're playing to solidify their positions of where they are. They're not playing to try to stay afloat or try to get in. And for us to be playing catch up at this stage of the game, that really, really concerns me and it bothers me. Real quick, on the other side of the ball, Philadelphia had 3 guys last night that scored over 15 points. 3 guys that scored over 15 points, and we're supposed to have one of the more dominant defenses in the league. Tyrese Maxey, 30 points. Kelly Oubre, 22 points. Kyle Lowry, 16 points. And then you got Buddy Hield backdooring coming off the bench, giving them 12 points, which was an excellent pickup, by the way. I think quiet as kept, that Buddy Hield pickup for Philly. That was a big one. But that concerns me about our defense. Even with the missing players that we had, I expected our defense to be better. How do you see it on the defensive side of the ball for us?
The biggest thing is, like, think about it. When you're missing your best player in Jimmy Butler, who Jimmy and Bam, they're arguably, I would say, at least top 5 in terms of the best two-way players in the NBA. That's
Agreed.
why we really don't have an identity. Think about it. What other teams in the NBA consistently don't have their best player? Think about the Bucks missing Giannis for 30 games, or think about the Mavericks missing Luka for 30 games, or even Luka and Kyrie. You know, there's really no other team that's in the NBA right now that's missing 2 of their best players for long stretches throughout the season, especially close to the end of the season. You see what I'm saying? This is real, and the whole identity part. This team goes as far as Jimmy Butler will take them. If he's lollygagging, if he's not playing, this team probably won't win. Especially with Tyler Hero not being out. Because if it's Tyler and Bam, I'm expecting them to carry along with the role players. But when you have Jimmy Butler who's not there, how can you expect this Miami Heat team to win when we already lack talent, we already lack size, and we're missing our shooting guard. Now we're missing our backup shooting guard in Duncan Robinson. We're missing Josh Richardson. There's a lot of holes that's on this roster right now. So in terms of the identity, if Jimmy Butler's not on fire, this Miami Heat team cannot win, and we're seeing that. There's no other player that's in the NBA that can miss the same amount of time that Jimmy Butler can miss and still be able to have a functional playoff team or a contending team.
I agree. And you know, the finger pointing can go all around the room. Everyone gets their share of blame when it comes to that. You alluded to, you know, Jimmy Butler being pretty much, as the team goes, Jimmy goes. So if Jimmy comes out lollygagging or if Jimmy is unavailable, then the team is going to suffer. I talk about Bam ad nauseum sometimes about how I expect more from him or want more from him. But at some point, we also have to look at Coach Spo. And I'm the first person to say that Coach Spo is probably still, in my opinion, the best coach in the league. But I don't have as much oomph behind saying that as I did in prior seasons. Case in point, Thomas Bryant in this game last night played only, 11 minutes. 11 minutes in a game versus a team that had virtually no inside presence. Joel Embiid was nowhere to be found. Mo Bamba, I mean, come on. He doesn't really play a typical tradition. God bless his soul, but he doesn't play a traditional centerpiece position that's just going to deter you from going to the paint. I was baffled by the fact that Thomas Bryant didn't get as many minutes as I expected him to. Not as baffled because we all know Spo, he doesn't really take a liking too much to bigger play. I don't know what it is with Spo and 7-footers or players that's over 6'9", but he's very reluctant to play these guys sometimes. But to turn around and give Patty Mills 22 minutes, you gave Patty Mills 22 minutes, and I understand Terry Rozier needed to be, you know, they needed to give him some breathing room. He needed to breathe. He needed to come out and catch a blow or whatever the case is. But at some point, Spo, when you know that you're trying to fit a square peg into a circle, at some point you just got to use a circle to fit it in there. Because I don't see his player personnel that he was always given so much credit for. I don't see that on display this season as much. I don't see his lineups. I don't see his personnel usage being as stellar as it once was, or where it was last year or the year before. Spo was the master of being able to make lemonade out of lemons. You give him this and he's going to make that. I haven't really seen much of that this year. And again, with the questionable allocation of minutes, I don't quite understand what's going on with that. I would love to just trust that it's going to work out. But at this stage of the season, we're trying to stay afloat. We're in the 8th seed and at risk of dropping out and dropping all the way down to 9 or 10 or just completely out of it. We got like 10 games left, like you said, and it could go either way. I have no confidence right now going into the rest of our 10 games based on what I've seen. It was a wake-up call for us when it took us a miracle last-minute shot to beat the Detroit Pistons. I know we were happy. I ain't gonna lie. I jumped up out my seat. I was feeling good about myself. I'm calling my boys. I'm like, yeah, I'm back on my, you know, I got my heat. I'm going ham. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, dang, it really took us a last-minute like buzzer beater from Bam to beat the Detroit Pistons. That kind of caused me to have a little bit of concern. But again, to your point, do you see this as something that can be turned around? Do you think in the next 10 games we can turn this around and build up any type of momentum going into the postseason?
So this is the thing too. Think about it. There's no other superstar. When you talk about Jimmy Butler, the fact that people say you don't know which Jimmy Butler you're going to get, no superstar in the NBA can have that privilege.
That's true.
That's a huge. Our best player, we don't know if our best player is going to play, if he's going to try, if he's not. That's the problem with this Miami Heat roster. Think about it. Tyler's out. Jimmy's out. Duncan's out. Jovic is out.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard to expect this team to rattle off wins or multiple wins. Think about it. we could have potentially have been on from if we didn't win that game in Detroit, we were what, maybe a 4 or 5 game losing streak.
Yeah.
You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We would have went maybe 1-4 or 1-5 these past few games.
Yeah.
So every game counts right now. It's just hard to make a very bold prediction about this team because you don't know who's available, and then also too you don't know how injured some guys really are. They were really hush hush with this Tyler Hero injury. Now all of a sudden he's getting injections. Duncan's going back to Miami because of his back. So there's a lot of things going on right now, and to be honest, I don't know who's available.
So
Caleb Martin has a banged up hand.
Yeah.
Who knows? Tomorrow, you know what? He's out. He's holding his ankle sometimes. Tomorrow he could be out. So we just don't know right now.
Never know. And
we could blame Spo, but think about it. He doesn't even know who's available. He's really working with a bunch of undrafteds at this point.
And it seems to be us that has this problem. I look around the league and I look at the other teams and their guys, like to your point, their guys are either resting up, getting ready for the playoffs, or they're playing at a top level, trying to make a push for MVP or something like that. But our team seems to continuously, and it's a recurring theme, that our team is riddled with injuries and we don't know what we're going to get from one game to the next, let alone from one quarter to the next. We don't know what's going to happen. So it led me to come up with this question, and I wanted to ask you this specifically. Do you think our grueling culture and our tough practices and our notorious just hard-nosed, grinded-out style of play and practice is cause for so many of the injuries that we seem to have that other teams don't? And before you answer that, mind you, there's a going like rumor or word around the league that the reason why the Miami Heat does not attract as many young free agents is because the rumor is that Miami Heat culture will shorten your career, that it will leave you riddled with injuries. Your career is going to be shortened, which is why we have a tendency to sign older free agents who are on the downside of their career, who are pretty much almost on their way out the door, a la Kyle Lowry, a la Kevin Love, a la guys like that. Do you see any truth to that at all?
No, because think about it, which Spo said multiple times in multiple seasons, they don't practice like how they used to. Think about it. Maybe throughout an 82-game season, they probably practice like full-blown practice, because I don't count really shoot-around. A full-blown practice, maybe 10 to 15 practices for the whole year, maybe 20 practices spread out throughout the whole season. So,
Wow.
they stopped all those 3-hour practices from when Pat was around. And to be honest, look when after LeBron and them left.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Right before they left, nobody was really facing injuries, and they're practicing harder back then.
That's true.
All their role players were pretty much healthy. Wade had his slight knee issues. LeBron never missed any time, and Bosh didn't miss any time.
Right.
So I think from D-Wade's ship with Shaq all the way up to the big three, the teams were relatively healthy as a whole. I just think it comes down to really bad luck at sometimes. Because think about it. Tyler Hero, he jumps for the ball, breaks his hand. Jimmy Butler in the Knicks series twists his ankle. Bam and Adebayo and Dragic in the bubble, they both get hurt. So it's kind of just untimely injuries, to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. Maybe they need to practice more. Because think about it. All the guys back then in the day, which they had those long practices. They had those long workout sessions. I'm not saying it has to be to that exact degree. But think about it. You have all these athletes now. They don't really love the game like how your generation loved the game. They don't love this. You see them traveling the world. Yeah, they're working out, but are they really getting the proper workouts?
Yeah.
Are they getting the proper nutrition? Especially like the working out part. You got to really nail it into your body, because I get it when they say, oh, well, you're practicing too much, you're going to get hurt. Look at all the people prior to us. They didn't have the medicine. They didn't have the training staff. They didn't have all the tubs and cools and all this stuff. And they didn't get injured that much.
Yeah, to your point, I look at some of my favorite Heat teams, that 1998 team when you had Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning, we had Dan Marley, we had Vashawn Leonard, Jamal Mashburn, and that was under Coach Pat Riley. And even those guys were playing like 70 games a season. Like they may have missed like 5 to 10 games throughout the course of the entire season. And this was during a more grueling, more physical, more defensive oriented time of the NBA. So again, like what you're saying makes total sense. It could just be a generational thing, and that we're just in an era now where guys are just more fragile, or because it's rare that you see a superstar play 82 games in this era of basketball.
But look too, I also think, and people are going to say this is crazy, but really look at the bigger picture. Think about the guys like Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway Jr., or Shaq, or just some of the other bigger built guys. When they came into the NBA, they looked like grown men.
Yeah.
They looked like, and they were the same age as these guys now, the same young boy, but they were more built.
They were more
and their
built.
bodies. I don't know, maybe if it's DNA. I don't know if it's the food. I don't know if it's the water.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's also genetics. But the guys who came into the NBA in the older era, their body coming into the NBA, bro, they were solid.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, Alonzo Mourning in his prime, nobody looks like him now. Dwight Howard in his prime back then, nobody looks like him now.
Good point.
So maybe there could be something there, because like I said, all the other players that were built strong coming into the NBA and even throughout their prime, they do not look like that now coming into the NBA and throughout the NBA. Think about it. Maybe Giannis is maybe the most biggest built person right now in the NBA. And look at the transition that he made from when he first started. He was a scrawny kid.
He bulked up to that. Yeah.
Built his body up.
Yeah.
Could it be that? There's just so many different elements. But I think the biggest thing, I just think it's untimely and bad luck, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the advent of all of this technology and all of this top of the line training facilities and training equipment, and now we've got, all these supplements that athletes are on and taking and all of this, I would expect it to be the other way. I would have expected that guys would be a little bit more physically imposing now. But to your point, no, it was more so that way back in my day. I don't want to be that older guy, like, get off my lawn. In my day, we had this and this, but it's straight up, it's right there, the writing's on the wall. It's what it is. Like, there was definitely a difference versus the stature of players then, the durability of players then versus the durability of players now. And it just seems like our Heat are getting the short end of that and a tough end of it now. Another question that I wanted to transition into, sticking here with the Heat, is I noticed, and I mentioned this a lot also, our Heat, we play zone more than any other team in the NBA. It's a known thing that we play zone. And again, our zone is a little bit unconventional compared to other zones of the past. We play a 3-2 zone, where we have our 3 bigs at the top, or whatever, if you want to call them bigs, what we call bigs, because they're definitely not big by NBA standards. But we have Bam leading the top of the zone, and then we have our smaller players on the bottom of the end of the zone. So that leaves us susceptible to a lot of the team getting offensive rebounds against us. So my question is, because it's such a known fact that we play so much zone defense and it's like our staple, do we play so much zone because we're undersized, or are we getting all of these undersized players because Spo wants to play zone more? I know it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg type of a question, but in your eyes, because we know, small ball Spo, he loves his undersized lineups, but what is it? Like, what is it that makes our team so attracted to that zone? Do you think it's the players we have, or do you think our zone is what makes us go and scout these players that we bring in?
But I think it comes down to roster construction, because think about it, especially these past few years where you had Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry. They're not good defenders. So what is Spo forced to do? He can't just put them both on an island with their defenders one-on-one. So the best way to have hands everywhere, try to shorten up the passing lanes and try to make things difficult, is to play the zone. And then also, too, same thing with the whole big man situation. Because so when we had Ethan J. Skolnick from 5 Reasons on our channel, he even said it, that, Spo, he wants to play the small ball. He doesn't really like to play 2 bigs. And I really don't know why, especially when this team lacks so much size. And even though we're not saying that you have to play Orlando Robinson and Bam together for 40 minutes, but we don't have the proper 4 for Bam to be that big man. Because if we had a guy like Miles Leonard or Miles Turner, those type of guys, or just Kelly Olynyk, somebody
Yeah.
that help Bam down low, rebound, set picks,
Right.
just do something. Then you can kind of play that zone. But the problem is that when you have Bam now running around,
Yeah.
because Kyle Lowry, he's getting blown by. Tyler Hero, he's getting blown by. That's why we have to play the zone, because we really can't keep anyone in front. We don't have the proper personnel. Now I think we have a slightly better personnel with DeLon Wright. Hopefully he gets some more minutes, especially with Duncan Robinson being out. But then now you don't have his offensive end that's a little bit shaky. So
Right.
I think these past few years, roster construction. We lack talent, and we saw that versus Denver and all these other games. We lack talent, we lack scoring, and we lack size. We have not fixed any of those issues since the 2020 bubble, and I think that's what's been plaguing. Yeah, the injuries have been there, but the whole talent aspect for Jimmy Butler to have to drop 40 and 50 and 60 and everyone else really have 10 to 15 points, come on. That means that it's a lack of talent, in my opinion, and we have not built a roster. Because think about it. They say that Tyler Hero is a bad defender. Who cares? You put a defender next to him.
Right.
If you say that, that Bam Adebayo struggles with size, you put size next to him.
Exactly.
If Jimmy Butler struggles with scoring, you put a scorer next to him. Guys like Christian Wood, we should have picked them up.
Definitely.
Guys like what's the guy from last night from the 76ers? Kelly, no, not like what's his name? He had like 22 points last night for the 76ers. Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, Kelly Oubre. Yeah, Oubre.
So that's the problem with the Miami Heat. They don't fill the gaps. They don't fill the weaknesses. And I get it, Spo doesn't want to do it, but guess what? And this is the biggest stat that Miami Heat fans don't realize. And one of my co-hosts said this. There's only been, I think we're the only 8th seed to ever get to the NBA Finals. Okay? Or like the second besides like the Knicks. Same thing with the 7th seed. And from 3rd and down, the likelihood of you making it to the NBA Finals is like 1 in a million. I don't know the exact stat, but that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
So this is what we have to think about Miami Heat fans. I understand playoff Jimmy, and I understand all the miracles that we've been able to do, but we haven't won, which goes right back to that stat. The likelihood of us winning the NBA Finals in the position and the seed that we're at and the current status of the Heat team is very low. And it's been low. Yeah, we've been able to get to the promised land, but the stat still stays true. The 5th, the 6th, and 7th, and the 8th seed never win the NBA Finals.
Never do. And also to expand on that, I don't know a team that's played small and won an NBA championship. I can't think of one. Like I said, one of my buddies and I was just going down memory lane. The closest that we could come up with was the Golden State Warriors, but they have Steph Curry, the greatest shooter that's ever lived. And Kevon Looney is not exactly a midget. He's got some size. And the Miami Heat, when we had LeBron, D Wade, and Bosh, that was the closest that a team playing small winning a championship. And even that team, we had Birdman coming off the bench. Joel Anthony, he was undersized, but he still did his thing and he mixed it up down low. But this small ball thing, there's something to it with Spo. And when we had Big Yurt a few years ago, Yurtseven, and when Bam had went out for like 10 games or so, I think this was in the 22 season or the 21 season, Bam went out for like 10 games. Yurt came in and averaged a double-double for like 10 or 11 games. When Bam came back, Yurt disappeared. Like he got buried on the bench. And then when it was time for contracts or whatever to be decided, Spo decided to get rid of him. Thomas Bryant, he only seems to play out of necessity. I don't see him getting, just regular built-in minutes. He gets sporadically thrown in there when Spo is basically has no choice. It's like, okay, I don't have anybody else, so I'm going to throw Thomas Bryant out there and give him like 11 minutes. And Jovic, he had to play out of his mind for a stretch of time in order for Spo to give him minutes. Otherwise, he would still be buried on the bench and they would be playing Jamal Cain. Again, I'm not paid to be the coach and to allocate minutes. I'm just a lowly podcaster giving my opinion, and Spo gets paid the big bucks and the millions to make these decisions. But it leaves me scratching my head sometimes with some of the personnel decisions. You know, Pat Riley, he's got to hold some of that L too, because he's the one who's doing the grocery shopping. Spo has to do the cooking, but they're kind of interlocked. So I'm quite sure everything that Pat Riley does is ran through Spo first, and Spo has to give his okay on things like that. But I'm just baffled sometimes by some of the personnel moves that we make and the ones that we don't make. Just to your point, as what you say there, you know, I'm not going to go on a tangent and on a rampage, but I did want to address those things. And I want to open it up for you to throw a few things at us here, and also for some of the viewers in the comments.
Yeah, just 3 questions.
Okay.
Where do you see the Miami Heat going forward? Do you see them making it back to the Eastern Conference Finals?
In my heart of hearts, you know, if you would have asked me the same question before the game last night, I would have definitely said, yeah, I could still see it. I felt good coming off of that Detroit win. I felt like those were the grinded out kind of wins that showed that we were ready, that we were getting back to where we were. But then after this game that I just saw last night with Philly kind of taking it to us the way that they did, in my heart, I don't. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really, really hard. I don't want to just say no, I don't see it, because then Heat Nation is going to come down on me with great fury and vengeance and call me all kind of fake fans and be all in my inbox and all that. But without flip-flopping, if you were just to hold me right now to the fire and say, are the Miami Heat going to get back to where they were? I don't see it right now. I have to keep it real. I got to keep it a buck. From what I see now, I don't see us getting there. Can we? Yeah, it's possible, but we'd have to turn it around now. I need to see something right now. But to answer your question, unequivocally, no, I don't see it right now.
Okay, and then the second question, where do the Miami Heat go forward with Jimmy Butler? Because think about it. You know, I'm pretty sure his contract expires this year.
It is.
What do the Miami Heat do with Jimmy Butler for a guy where you see he's on the decline? And there's nothing wrong with it. I think he's given us, you know, great years. I just think that it just didn't work out. And sometimes, like, it is what it is. You know, sometimes teams that look so good on paper, or you have that miracle run, but you just can't get over the hump. What do the Miami Heat do with him going forward? Because, you know, they're probably going to try to pay him well. He did say he wants to retire as a Miami Heat player. What do they do with a guy where if he's playing, maybe 50 games or less than 50 games right now, or on pace for flat 50, where do the Miami Heat going? Like, what do they do go forward? Because think about it. They're projecting that, or they think that Jimmy Butler's a star, and that's fine. But he's not good enough right now with everything going on to carry this team the way that he's supposed to. They got to be real with themselves. And Jimmy has to be real with himself and go to the Heat and say, listen, I can maybe I could be the second option, or maybe I could still be the first option, but we need a guy to come in and really be the bulk of the offense, along with Terry, maybe Tyler if he sticks around, and especially with Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, so I honestly don't think we can win a championship if Jimmy Butler is our number one option. I honestly don't think I don't think we can. At maybe in the bubble Jimmy, yeah, that was probably our best shot at winning a title with Jimmy Butler being our best player. If you made a great point, because Jimmy is going to go for the bag. They're going to probably throw a bag at Jimmy, and he's going to gracefully accept it. Now, if Jimmy really, really, really is on his Dwayne Wade and like, I want to be a Heat lifer and I'm willing to sacrifice and do whatever it takes for us to win, and if he's willing to take a little haircut off of that salary, if he's willing to, you know, get what they call it, the hometown discount, if he's willing to do that for them to bring in some more help, or bring in a legit 7-footer to play next to Bam, or bring in, you know, another elite point guard. I'm not saying that we're going to get Dame, but if we can bring in someone of that caliber or someone in that echelon, then I can see it happening. But with Jimmy being the number one option of the team, and him being on the decline, with the amount of injuries that I'm seeing, with the amount of energy that he has to expend just for us to win games, I don't see it realistically happening. So my thing is, okay, yeah, if Jimmy's willing to take a pay cut, yeah, I could see him, and I would love for him to be a Heat lifer and stay here, retire with the Heat. But he's got to do some active recruiting, and he's got to be willing to sacrifice. If not, then what is Jimmy now? What is he, 30, what, 32, 33? How old is Jimmy now?
34?
34. Okay. The return that we could get on Jimmy right now would probably be the peak of when we can get a return for him. If we hold on to Jimmy any longer, then he's going to have to stay, because nobody's going to really take that chance on a player like that unless they just need one little piece to help them get over the hump. But for us, if we're going to move Jimmy, this summer would be the time to do it.
Yep.
It would have to happen now, because you and I both know once NBA players start getting it from 34 to 35 and then they start creeping up, he's definitely in the last few years of his career. And if we're going to make a move, it would have to be now. So again, I would love for him to stay. I would love to see him as a Heat lifer. He represents our culture very well. But as a fan, as a Heat lifer fan that has been a fan since the inception of the team, I have an eye for what I see being good for the team. And I don't see Jimmy being the best player on the Heat and bringing us an NBA championship.
All right, and then last question. So with Tyler Hero, 24 years old, missing so much time. You know, he's like $120 million man.
Oh my goodness.
What do the Miami Heat do with Tyler Hero? Because think about it, he's supposed to be one of the cornerstone pieces with Bam Adebayo going into the future. You know, he's the one that said he wants to be in the same conversation as Luka, Trey, and Ja. I don't think he's there, but going forward, what do the Miami Heat do with a young player that cannot stay healthy? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, health is a big concern of mine with Tyler, especially with him being the age that he is. I was looking at a stat and a number of his draft class and all of the guys that came out of his class, like the Tyrese Maxeys, the Jordan Pooles, and everyone from his draft class that's in his age group. He has missed more games due to injury than all of them. And it's not even close. It's like a really big gap between him and the next person on the list of missed games due to injury from his draft class. That's a red flag to me. I've seen this many times. I've been watching basketball for a long time, and I love Tyler's game. I love his offensive firepower. I love his shooting. I love his ball handling. I love his confidence. I love his game, but his defense leaves a lot to be desired. His availability leaves a lot to be desired because he's hurt a lot, as you mentioned. He doesn't play as much as I would like to see him on the court. So what is the use of having such a potentially great player if he's not there to help us when we need him the most? And if this is going to be a recurring theme for Tyler, which it looks like because he's still within the first 4 or 5 years of his career, and he's missing games like he's a 12-year vet. He's missing like chunks of the season, chunks of the playoffs, chunks of it's just his availability is all over the place. So in my estimation, I think that Pat Riley did right by trying to move him in the Dame Lillard package, but other GMs are starting to take witness to this. Other GMs are noticing, okay, this guy might be damaged goods. So moving him, though that could be a resolution, it may not be as easy as people think. We're not going to get the return on Tyler Hero that we think or that we would expect that he's probably worth. People are not going to trade for his potential. They're going to trade for his availability. And based on his availability, I don't really see that many teams lining up to get him. But to answer your question, where do I see him? I could see if Pat Riley is just going to scrap the whole thing and say, okay, Jimmy, let's move you and get what we can get. Tyler, let's move you and get what we can get. I think Tyler would probably not give us the return that we probably want. We could probably get maybe a draft pick or a really, really strong role player for him. But I don't really see us getting much back for Tyler as much as his potential would warrant. So even though I would love to see him flipped into something bigger, the reality of it is I just don't see too many teams budging on that. And I don't see Pat Riley as being that gung-ho on trading him that he's just willing to take scraps. So I think the stubbornness of Pat and probably the potential of what Tyler could be may have him end up right here in Miami, missing more games and not contributing when we need him to. I mean, God forbid that's the case. I would love for things to turn around, and I hope this is the last time we have to see Tyler injured so much. But the reality of it is he hasn't really shown me much in terms of his durability. So I think we might just have to make it work with Tyler. We might just have to make it work. I don't see any team wanting to take him. So
listen, man, thank you so much for having me on. Guys, all the people that are from my channel, make sure you guys come here, like, share, comment, subscribe. They're pushing to 1,000 subscribers. And listen, thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. Martell, Miami Heat Zone, we really appreciate you for joining us. Once again, everybody out there in Heat Nation and the Time Zone Nation, salute. Make sure y'all go and check out the Miami Heat Zone podcast. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like. Go ahead and share. We're doing this, we're all in this together. This is Heat Nation until the wheels fall off, and we're all sports fans to the number one, to the fullest. Shout out to Time Zone Dave. He's not with us right now, but he'll be joining us for the part 2 segment. But again, appreciate you and salute for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Peace out, brother.